Hello, today we're going to go over how to install Visual Studio Code for Python development. So I'm going to search for Visual Studio Code Python. And it'll come up with a couple options. What I'm going to look for is Get Started Tutorial for Python in Visual Studio Code. And this tutorial walks through everything you need. If you followed my previous tutorial on installing Python 3, we've already got that installed at this point. So now we just need Visual Studio Code and the Python extensions. There's a link here to install Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to go there, and you can download Visual Studio Code for Mac, Windows, or Linux. So whatever your operating system is, you should be able to find this code editor. So I'm going to download for Windows because I'm on a Windows machine. And I'm just going to download it to my download folder. You can download it anywhere you would like. And Visual Studio Code basically is a lightweight editor. It's mostly a text editor, but it allows you to install a lot of extensions for developing in a whole variety of languages. So it's kind of an all-purpose software development tool, and it's a great one to get used to using. So once the setup program has been downloaded, I'm going to click it to open it up. There is an agreement here, like with most software. This is free for us to use. And I'm just going to accept the default install location. And it'll create some shortcuts. You can choose to have a desktop icon. And you can add some options here. For example, adding the ability to open with code with Windows Explorer. Probably not a bad thing to have. And then you can register it as the default editor for supported file types. That's up to you. If you have any other code editors on here, this might cause some defaults to change on you, but those are your options. It's not critical which way you go. Definitely leave the add to path checkbox enabled. And then it will do the install. And that's it. Pretty fast install, mostly because this is just a text. This is primarily a text editor. Any options that we need, we will install later. So to work with this with Python, one of the things that we will need is to install the Python extension. And you may not have all these links, and I think I had some previous installations that it picked up on. But one of the extensions, we can go here to install extensions. So go here and type Python. And we want the Microsoft Python extension here. So there's another number of installations that are available, and I already have this installed. So yours will say install here. I'm going to go ahead and uninstall it for now so that I can demonstrate what this looks like. And so you'll see it look like this, and then just click install, and it'll install this Python extension. Once you have that, we can test out our install by doing a quick hello world. So go to File, and what I recommend is click on Open Folder. I'll do that again. File, Open Folder, and find some place. I'm just going to use my desktop for now, but find a place in your drive where you want to put your code, and try to keep all your code in in that organized folder structure. I'm going to just create one here called test Python install. And then in here, I'm going to select that folder that I just created, and it'll open it up. It might ask you, do you trust the code that you put into that desktop? So I went ahead and said yes. And so now we have a representation of that folder. If I go to my desktop and I look at it, I can see that right here is that test Python install. So this folder structure here is representative of what's in here. In fact, if I were to add something in here, for example, text document, it would show up there. Similarly, if I were to go here and click New File, and I'm just going to call this one hello.py, it'll look at the file extension to decide whether or not the file you have is a Python file. And you can see right here that this file now shows up in this directory. This is just a directory structure, just like your structure here. And so just to test this, I'm just going to type print single quote hello world exclamation point. That's kind of our hello world. And the nice thing about this is you'll notice that when you type in Visual Studio Code, it'll bring up an explanation of what that function is. So it gives you the documentation right in the page, and it even gives you the format. So here you can see, what the variables are. This may be hard for you to read at this point in time. There's an example here, which gives you all the different options. You'll learn more about how to read this as time goes on. But we're just going to do print hello world. And then that's to run this program. You can go to this little icon, and if you just click it right now, it'll run. Now make sure that you save your program before you run it. You can click File, Save. That will make sure that that's saved. And now we can see that we ran our program and it said hello world. So what we printed here will end up down here. So that's just a example of making a program. We know that this works, and so now I'm going to close this program and show you how to reopen your program. So here you have hello.py. Let's say that you wanted to open this with Visual Studio Code. One way of doing it is you can go in here, right click, and open with code, and that will open it up. The other option is to just type Visual Studio Code, run Visual Studio Code, and it will tend to open up to where you were before. So if you close the editor, it'll come back to where you're working. I'm going to close this folder. And let's say that you just opened up Visual Studio and you're not there. You have these options here to open folder, or you can come up here and say open folder and navigate to where your directory is. and then say select folder, and your code will show up again. So that's how we use Visual Studio Code to work with our code. So we see our files that are here. The file that we've selected we see in this window, and then down here under the terminal, we'll see our code run when we click the run button. Thank you very much.